Okay. We are continuing in the book of Numbers. We did a brief review last week, remind us where we are in the story of the Pentateuch. And we spent, I guess, the last 10 minutes or so doing overview of the book. We'll do a little bit more of that today, and then we'll go ahead and start looking at chapter 1. But I want to start with a review/pop quiz question. This is a fun one. Naming the sons of Jacob. Can you name the sons of Jacob? Some are easier to remember than others.
Dan, Gad, Asher,
Okay. Dan, Gad, Issachar, Asher, Zebulun. Okay, that's 5 of them. That's almost half.
I had to learn them one summer, what we did at home.
Okay, Judah.
Reuben,
Benjamin, Levi. What did you? Leon. Oh yeah, Reuben. Sorry, I got lost in the. Oh, we got 10 of them. There's 2 left. There we go. Joseph, the most famous one.
I named him first.
She did. That was the first one up there. Okay, 1 left. Who's left? Let's see. Oh, I know who's left. That took me a second. He's got a fun name. He's usually paired up with Dan. No. What? Well, that's his daughter, but I'm looking for his sons. But yes. Diana is his daughter. Yes. I'm more impressed that you knew that than if anyone got this one. No. We got lost. That's still a woman. Naphtali. Okay, so how many is this? 12. Right, because you got 6 and 6. So 12 sons. Okay, here's your question. When we say the 12 tribes of Israel, are we referring to these tribes? Okay. Here's where it gets weird, right? Because we usually don't talk about the tribe of Joseph. Not usually, right? Okay, who do we usually talk about instead? Ephraim and Manasseh. Yeah, Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, well, if we take out Joseph and instead we count Ephraim and Manasseh, how many have we got to now? We've got to 13. And we talk about Naphtali. Y'all just forgot about him, but he's talked about. Now, what's interesting, because the number 12 is so special, right? We always want to have 12 tribes. Basically, we're always going to find a way to count it so we can get to 12, even though there's 13 of them. There's very clearly 13 tribes. Because Joseph his family is so big And I don't know why. Maybe he had multiple wives in Egypt. I don't know. That's what his dad did, and look how many kids he ended up with. Yeah, maybe he's just very blessed. Who knows? But his family ends up being very large, and we have these two half tribes. Are they the only sons he had? I wonder, especially since he's the youngest one. How do they end up being the biggest? But this is how we're going to end up with our tribes, and we end up with this conundrum. So we start. We'll keep that in mind. I want to mention again what I already talked about, the breakdown of the book of Numbers. The other side's kind of full. So chapters 1 through 10 is the first section. Then chapters 11 through 25. Then chapters 26 through 36. So it breaks into these sections pretty nicely. And I've looked at a bunch of commentaries and books on the Pentateuch that break the book down in different ways. And they all kind of agree on this. They don't all use these exact divisions, but they all recognize that there's a clear division here and that there's a clear division here, whether this is how they outline it or not. So what's going on in this first section, it's like a three-part story. Okay, Numbers is a three-part story. You remember when we went through Leviticus? Leviticus was a book of law, and it had a few narratives inside of it, like 3 short narratives in the whole book. Numbers is the opposite. It is a narrative book with law inside of it. So sometimes we'll be going along, and randomly the text will burst into law, and you'll be thinking, what? Why are we talking about this right now? For example, in chapter 8, Moses makes the golden candlestick. Just the candlestick, not the rest of the furniture. That's already been made. He makes the candlestick. Why is it there? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But hopefully we'll figure that out. But because of this, Numbers is it's probably the weirdest book in the Pentateuch, because it doesn't just fit into one category as easily as some of the others. And Exodus is also narrative and law, but there's kind of a point at which the law begins, and before that it's narrative, and after that it's law. Numbers is just a hodgepodge. However, it's still telling a basic story. So in this first section, this is where they're still at Mount Sinai, right? They're getting ready to go into the Promised Land. And like I said last week, pretend that you don't know what happens, because that's how a good story goes. You don't know what the plot twist is going to be. But they're getting ready to go into the Promised Land. So they're going to get their army ready. They're going to make preparations for their spy mission, right? They got to go collect intelligence. But what happens here in this middle section is they actually go into the land, and now things change. In this first section, their attitude is entirely positive. They have an attitude of, we can do this, we're going to follow the Lord. And something you can notice, this is very quick, look at the last verse of Numbers chapter 1. Numbers chapter 1, verse 54. Thus the sons of Israel did according to all which Yahweh had commanded Moses, so they did. Last verse of chapter 2. Thus the sons of Israel did according to all that Yahweh commanded Moses, so they camped by their standards, so they set out everyone by his family according to his father's household. Last verse of chapter 3, same thing. Then Moses took the money of the redemption price to Aaron to his sons at the command of Yahweh, just as Yahweh had commanded Moses. The end of chapter 4, same thing. According to the word of Yahweh by the hand of Moses, they were numbered, everyone by his serving or carrying. Thus, these were his numbered men, just as Yahweh had commanded Moses. And you keep going, you go down to, into chapter 8, verses 1 through 4, where he makes the lampstand. Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you mount the lamps, the 7 lamps will give light in front of the lampstand. Aaron therefore did so. He mounted its lamps at the front of the lampstand, just as Yahweh commanded Moses. At the end of verse 4, according to the pattern which Yahweh had shown Moses, so he made the lampstand. I mean, it just keeps going on. Chapter 9, they keep the Passover just as Yahweh had commanded. And in Numbers chapter 9, verse 8, Moses said to the men, wait, and I will listen to what Yahweh will command concerning you. So they're very interested in this first section. Notice, all of that's still in this first section. In listening to what the Lord has for them to do. And they're doing it. So this first stage is very positive, right? Yay, woo. But then here, we know, chapters 12 and 13, the spies go into the land. It's not exactly what they thought it was going to be. I don't know what they thought it was going to be. They spent all this time counting up their army, so I don't know if they thought they wouldn't have a fight or not. But they come back and they say, I don't think we can do this. And from then on, the people just grumble and complain, and they rebel against the Lord. And so here, in this middle section, things are not so good. In this middle section, we're going to read all of the most famous stories from the book of Numbers, where the people rebel in some way, and then God punishes them in some way. Usually a bunch of people die. And hopefully the people have learned their lesson, they move on. Now, what God says, I mentioned last week in this section, is he's going to kill off the current generation because they can't do what they need to do until that generation dies off. So there's a lot of death here in this one. And up until about chapter 18, chapter 19, we're killing off that old generation. That really represents the old generation. By chapter 20, things start to turn. There's still people dying off, but things start to turn. Chapter 20 and on, we have this new generation and their outlook. So some people will divide the book at chapter 20. Anyway, but these last few chapters, they've made it to the plains of Moab, just across from the Jordan River, and they're ready to go in. 40 years have magically passed by, and they're ready to go in. And so in this last stage, nobody's dying. It's all positive. The people are once again ready to do what God has called them to do. So, this is there's your basic outline of the book. Chapters 1 through 10, 11 through 25, 26 through 36. Okay, there you go. So, I'm going to flip this now. I want you to see this. This needs editing. I didn't pay attention to exactly what order they were in up there. But Numbers chapter 1, Yahweh spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. And I think I told you that in Hebrew the name of this book is just in the wilderness from this verse, in the wilderness. And they're in the wilderness the whole time. In the tent of meeting, in the first of the second month, second year, they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the sons of Israel, by their families, by their fathers' households, according to the number of names, every male, head by head from 20 years old and upward, whoever is able to go out to war in Israel. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies. With you, moreover, there shall be a man of each tribe, and one head of his father's household. These then are the names of the men who shall stand with you. And he gives him this wonderful list of names. And I want you to see who the tribes are who are listed. Reuben, Eliezer the son of Shedeur, Of Simeon, Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. Of Judah, Nahshon, the son of Amminadab. Of Issachar, Nethanel, the son of Zuar. Of Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. Of the sons of Joseph. And here you see what happens. He splits it into the two sub-tribes. Of Ephraim, Elishama, the son of Ammihud. Of Manasseh, Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. Of Benjamin, Abidan, the son of Gideoni. Of Dan, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. Of Asher, Pagiel, the son of Okran. Of Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Duel. Of Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Enan. And notice Naphtali is last year too, so we're not the only ones who remembered his name last. But notice what happens here. We list out, and if you count those tribes, how many are there? Nope. There's 12. Now we know we got to 12 partially by counting Ephraim and Manasseh and taking out Joseph, but that still puts us at 13, right? So who's the lucky loser this time? Who gets cut out? Yeah, it's Levi. So Levi is the one here who gets not counted. Okay, so here's the thing. In the book of Leviticus, which has Levi in the name, who is said to be special? Priests, right? And we find out that the priests are going to be Aaron and his sons. Now, you may not have noticed, because we already know kind of where all this is going to end up. So sometimes we don't notice these things along the way. But the Levites as a whole tribe have not been regarded as significant up to this point. It's just been Aaron and his family. But now in the census, Levi is getting taken out, okay? And it hasn't been explained yet. He just gives him all the other tribes. He tells him, count these people up. These men are the representatives for each of these tribes. And so Moses and Aaron took those men who had been designated by name, and they counted them. And the rest of the chapter until verse 46 is literally just the counting. I do want to make a note here that these numbers are really hard to work with, because what these numbers represent is the number of men who are 20 years or older of fighting capability, which means that the actual number that they represent of people in the tribe is significantly larger by a factor of probably about 3, okay? Now, the problem is that according to what we know from different passages, there have only been 150, 200 years since 70 people went into Egypt. And you aren't going to get this level of population growth if those numbers are all accurate. So is there something else going on? I don't know. I don't know if there's more time in there than we realize, if the 70 people who are counted as coming in is representative and there were actually more people in their families. There's also an explanation, a possible explanation, that this is a real thing, that the Hebrew word Aleph, which means normally the number 1,000, can also be used as a technical word to mean a troop or, like a squadron, like a unit, a small military unit. Okay? So 600,000 is not the same as 600 squads, right? Those are very different numbers of people. So which is meant here? Well, this sounds very nice, but the problem is at the end of this text, it's going to say in verse 46 that the total number of men is 603,000. Well, if the word all along this way has just been a symbolic term, then you'd expect the thousands to be added up here and all the hundreds to be added up here, or something like that, right? So exactly what's going on with the numbers, I don't know, and I don't have an answer for you. But probably these numbers are not exactly like at face value. Probably. They also would represent a number of people significantly larger than what anthropologists estimate was the total population of Egypt and the total population of Canaan. So if their army outnumbers the entire population of Canaan, why are they going to be terrified to go in? Why are they, how are they still subjugated to Egypt when they're there? There's just a lot of questions, and I don't have answers for you. I'm not trying to get you to doubt your Bibles or anything like that. I'm just letting you know that there's a lot of questions regarding this. So sometimes you'll just hear people say that the number of people in the Exodus is about 2 million, and it comes from multiplying this number times 3 or 4. Maybe not. It's very hard to know, okay? So I'm just letting you be aware that that is a question. I have no answer. I wish I did. I really, really wish I did. But they count up all these people, and then you come in verse 47, and it says, the Levites, however, were not numbered among them by their father's tribe. And we just noticed that, right? We noticed that. And it goes back in time to explain why. Because Yahweh had Yahweh had spoken to Moses saying, only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, nor shall you take their census among the sons of Israel. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, over its furnishings, over all that belongs in it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings, and they shall attend to it. They shall also camp around the tabernacle. So when the tabernacle is to set out, the Levite shall take it down. When it encamps, the Levite shall set it up. But the layman, or your Bible may have stranger or outsider or foreigner, but the layman who comes near shall be put to death. And the sons of Israel shall camp, each man by his own camp, each man by his own standard, according to their armies. The Levite shall camp around the tabernacle of the testimony, so that there will be no wrath on the congregation of the sons of Israel. So the Levite shall keep charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. Thus the sons of Israel did, according to all which Yahweh had commanded Moses, so they did. Ta-da, easy. So remember, the census is about their army. This is not about who just you're not taking a census for fun so that 4,000 years later we can sit in here and wonder whether the word 1,000 means 1,000. They're doing this because they're setting up their army, okay? So when they don't count the Levites, it isn't because the Levites are less important. It's because they don't need to know the number of fighting Levites, because they already know the number of fighting Levites. How many? It's 0. They have a greater task. Their task is not to be on the front lines, but to guard the tabernacle, right? So they're like, in a manner of speaking, they're actually like They're like a royal guard, okay? Because their king is in the middle, God, and they surround his throne, and they protect it, and that's what they do. They take care of it. So they're going to be, they serve a more ceremonial religious role as opposed to the military role of everybody else, okay? So in chapter 2, they're given instructions on how to arrange the camp. And maybe here we can correct my little diagram and see if we can make it more accurate. I drew this thing very quickly, so I'm aware it needs some editing. So we're just going to erase all of that, because I don't know what's right and what isn't. And that's what I get for Googling things. Okay. So, we're going to read. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, the sons of Israel shall camp each by his own standard. And of course, you at this point, this language of standards and banners and armies, you should be picturing a war camp, because that's what this is. They shall camp around the tent meeting at a distance. Now, he is going to explain momentarily that the reason they're camping at a distance is because the Levites are camped not at a distance. And they're keeping that barrier of holiness. You know, we've talked about this, that the tabernacle is it's a holy place. And obviously it gets holier the farther in you get. But the whole camp is holy, and so they're going to keep the possibly unsanctified Israelites at a distance, make sure that the Levites are closer. Because the Levites are just one tribe, it's a lot easier to keep track of their holiness than it is the holiness of everybody else. Those who camp on the east side toward the sunrise shall be of the standard of the camp of Judah by their armies. And so that's going to be there later. So Judah is out here, right? Judah. They're in front. Because remember, this is the east is the front of the camp. We think of the front as the north, but this is oriented east-west, not north-south. So Judah is actually in front. And I don't know if this is, kind of foreshadowing for the kingly role that Judah is going to take on later or not, but they're put here in this prime position. Those who camp next to him shall be the tribe of Issachar and the tribe of Zebulun. So, Issachar and Zebulun. Okay? On the south side shall be the camp of Reuben by their armies, and Simeon and Gad shall be next to him. So who's here? Reuben. And it's going to be Simeon and Gad. I probably should have switched those, but Simeon and Gad. And on the west side will be the camp of Ephraim. Next to him will be Manasseh and Benjamin. Okay, I didn't leave a whole lot of room on that side for the Levites, so don't know what they're going to do. And then on the north side, Dan with Asher and Naphtali. Okay. All right. Dan, Asher, and Naphtali on the north, on the north side. And then you have your total number. And then you've got all of the sons of everybody. Then you come down to verse 33. The Levites, however, were not numbered. And so then everyone stood where they're supposed to be. So the first 2 chapters, all we've done is count the people and put them in order around the camp. This Numbers is pretty boring so far, right? But we're making good pace, I'd say. Oh, yes, ma'am.
You may have said the story, but where was Levi? Tribe of Levi? You said
They haven't been given a place yet. We know they're going to be around the tabernacle because, right, they're going to guard it, but they haven't been given specific places yet. Okay, good question. Chapter 3. These are the generations of Aaron and Moses. Now, this is really interesting. This feels like Genesis again with a full genealogy, right? These are the generations of Aaron and Moses at the time when Yahweh spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, Ithamar. These are the names of Aaron, the anointed priest, whom you ordained to minister as priests. But Nadab and Abihu, what happened to them? They died before Yahweh when they offered strange fire before Yahweh in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. So their lines are totally cut off. So Eleazar and Ithamar ministered as priests in the lifetime of their father Aaron. They've got to do the work of 2 men each because their brothers died. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Bring the tribe of Levi near and have them stand before Aaron the priest, that they may minister to him." Again, remember, before this time, the tribe of Levi has not been regarded as anything special, but now God is giving them this special privilege. They're going to minister before Aaron. They're going to basically be assistants to the priests in the service. They shall keep his responsibility and the responsibility for the whole congregation before the tent of meeting to perform the service of the tabernacle. And this starts to answer some questions that we might have had in Leviticus about all of the goings-on. I mean, think how many sacrifices are happening and how many individual details have to happen as part of that. You're using all these pots and pans. Someone's got to be washing them. Someone's got to be fetching and going. There's all sorts of nitty-gritty details. Someone's got to take the animals outside of the tabernacle to go burn the carcasses. Someone's probably got to be making all these pots that they're using. The clay ones, not just they had brass pots, but they also used clay pots. So you've got all this stuff that you're using all the time, all of these details. Well, if you've just got 3 men, they can't do all that. So the Levites are appointed to help with this. They shall keep the furnishings of the tent of meeting, along with the responsibility of the sons of Israel to perform the service of the tabernacle. You shall thus give the Levites to Aaron and his sons, and they are wholly given to him from among the sons of Israel. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons. They may keep their priesthood, but the outsider who comes near shall be put to death. And that, we already saw that phrase once about the outsider being put to death, right? That should probably resonate with what we were just reminded of regarding Nadab and Abihu. They offer this strange fire. So the strange fire was not welcome before the Lord, and in the same way, a strange person is not welcome in the presence. This is a holy place for a holy purpose. So that's clarified here. And notice also this. We kind of glossed over this when we were in Leviticus, and maybe I should have spent more time with it. But he makes reference to the dedication of the firstborn. The firstborn was to be dedicated to the Lord. And in exchange for that, God accepts a particular type of sacrifice. And he talks about that in Leviticus. But here, he explains that the Levites are going to represent that giving of the firstborn to God. Now behold, I have taken the Levites from among the sons of Israel instead of every firstborn, the first offspring of the womb among the sons of Israel, so the Levites shall be mine. Okay? For all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel from man to beast. They shall be mine. I am Yahweh. Okay. That's that, right? Okay. So that's our theological explanation for why the Levites are chosen. And notice here, this is really interesting. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, number the sons of Levi by their father's household, by their families, every male from a month old and upward you shall number. These are the sons of Levi by their names, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And he breaks those down into their subfamilies as well. He says that the numbered men of the Gershonites was 7,500. In verse 28, the Kohathites added up to 8,600, and the Merarites, verse 34, add up to 6,200. So all the numbered men of the Levites, verse 39, were 22,000. So much for not numbering the people. This also kind of kills, again, with another nail, the Aleph theory that the word means troop, because this number's just as large as any of those other numbers. So there you go. So no help there. But yeah, so these men are counted up, and you have to remember these three sub-tribes: Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Now, which sub-tribe are Aaron and Moses from? We went through it fast enough that I didn't give you a chance to pick that up. Does anyone remember that? So there's Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. I think that's an A. Okay. Kohath is the father of the, in Exodus chapter 3, it says that Moses is the son of a man named Amram. Now, does that mean that Amram is his father, or that he's descended from Amram? I don't know. I think, again, for the math to work out, for these numbers to be anything close to accurate, Amram cannot be his father, because Amram is the son of Kohath who comes into Egypt. So in all this time of captivity, he's only had a grandson? Probably not. But here in Numbers chapter 3, in verse 27, it says, of Kohath was the family of the Amramites, and the family of the Izharites, and the family of the Hebronites, and the family of the Uzzielites. In other places, these are said to be individual men, and I'm sure they are, as sons of Kohath. Is Amram himself the father of Moses and Aaron? I don't know. I don't have answers. Directly, I mean. But Kohath gives you Amram, and whether it's immediately or over the process of time, you get Moses, Aaron, and who's their sister? Miriam. Okay. And so Aaron has 4 sons: Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. By the way, down the road, the branch of Ithamar is going to be cut off. When does that happen? Anyone remember? It happens at the opening of the book of 1 Samuel. The priest is Eli, and he has two sons who are very wicked. And so God says, I'm going to cut off your family. So after that point, we see priests only from the branch of Eleazar. Okay? So. But yes, this is kind of our family tree that we're working with here. So they count up all of the Levites, number each firstborn male from the sons of Israel from a month old and upward, make a list of their names. They number them, and the number is, verse 43, 22,273. Well, if the total number is 22,273, but the total number of Levites is 22,000, we have a discrepancy of 273. And the Levites are supposed to take the place of all of the other firstborns. So this is what happens here. We have this redemption price, which I mentioned. You can pay this redemption price, or not can, but this is part of their ceremonies, that you'd pay this redemption price when you have a firstborn. Take the Levites instead of all the firstborn among the sons of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites. The Levites shall be mine, I am Yahweh. For the redemption price of the 273 of the firstborn of the sons of Israel who are in excess beyond the Levites, you shall take 5 shekels apiece per head. You shall take them in terms of the shekel of the sanctuary, etc., etc. And so he took the amount of money. Okay. It is what it is, right? That brings us to chapter 4. Now, chapter 4, we're not going to read through as closely as we have the other chapters, but in chapter 4, the 3 families, the Gershonites, the Kohathites, and the Merarites, are going to be given specific duties. The Kohathites have the highest privilege. The Kohathites are personally responsible for the furniture of the tabernacle. Now, what does that include? Yeah, that includes the Ark of the Covenant with the mercy seat. You know, the throne. So if we're thinking of them as a royal guard, then the Kohathites are like, I don't know, they're like the guys at Buckingham Palace who wear the cool fur hats, you know. Like, they're the really special dudes. They're the ones who escort the king himself. I don't know that the fur hat guys are the ones who do that. I don't know. We don't have anything exactly like that in our culture. So just picture something that is not in our culture. We just don't have a king. And it's hard to think of things exactly the same way. Yes. That I would say they serve a similar function. But it's because of just the nature of a king, we just don't have an exact equivalent, which is okay. But yeah, just think of them as a ceremonial guard. Is anyone else really hot? I'm burning up in here. I don't know why. I just always... Anyway, the Kohathites are responsible for... This chapter gives all of these details. They're to put coverings over all of the furniture so that no one is able to touch anything accidentally. Because what happens if you touch something and you're not permitted to? You die. Because unholiness cannot be exposed directly to holiness. So they have these coverings for it. The Gershonites are not as exciting. They get to carry the curtains. The Merarites carry the pillars. So what happens is they're taking down the tabernacle. The Gershonites come up first. They take off all of the curtains, right? They're collecting the curtains. They roll them up or whatever, and they start transporting them. The Merarites come. They take all of the poles, and they carry them off. And the furniture, which the Kohathites have already covered up, they then grab everything by the poles. They've got all the bowls and little utensils. They grab all those things, and they carry those things. Now, who gets to carry the Ark of the Covenant? I guess it hasn't said yet. I thought it was going to say. Well, the Ark of the Covenant is going to be carried by the Kohathites as well, because if you've got 2 priests, that's not enough men to carry it. So, but yes, that's going to kind of lead the path. So when they arrange themselves, I thought the arrangement was in here, but I'm not seeing it. Yeah. Was that in 3? I didn't see it in 3. Oh, it is. You're right. Verse 23, the Gershonites are behind. We're just going to do a G. Okay, the Gershonites camp behind. The Merarites camp east. No, that's not right. North. The Merarites are to the north. Kohathites are to the south. Moses and Aaron and the priests camp to the east. Yeah. That's verse 38. So whenever they get ready to march, they're going to directly follow. They're directly going to be in the front. They're going to move out here. Then the other tribes are going to arrange them, or the other branches of Levi are going to arrange themselves behind the priests. Then the other tribes are going to arrange themselves behind the Levites. So that's how they're going to travel in formation. So you notice all this is logistics. It's really dry and dull. But even so, you can still see, at least with this map, you can still see that there's still a spiritual core to what's happening here. That the reason for all of this logistics, the reason that they're arranged in this way is not just for fun, it's because of the spiritual reality of God's holiness, that God is holy, that those who are near him or who draw near to him must be holy. So we're going to put the priests here. And you can see also that there's an order in which the people are going to arrange themselves, that God does things in an orderly way, which we see all the way back to Genesis chapter 1. But that's pretty much it for these first 4 chapters of Numbers. So I'm glad we plowed through that. The next section in chapter 5 is the test for adultery. Chapter 6 is the Nazirite vow and the priestly blessing. So that's going to be more interesting next. Well, not next week. We'll be gone next week, but the week after. So, any questions? Okay. I know this was really fun. But that's all I've got.